When I did my military service, we learned something called SARA. In English, position, breathe, aim, fire. This increased the chance of hitting the target aimed at in sharpshooting exercises at longer distances. The military, just like the street, has many words that are shortened mainly to make it easier to mention all the long complicated words but also to make them easier to remember. RAOSA is something I came up with when I found myself in a situation in life where nothing was working and the thought hit me, if Sarah worked in the army, there should be something similar that I can put to use on a daily basis to simplify my decisions. Because at the end of the day, it's my decisions that primarily affect my life, SBD, situation by design. And life is like the army, a goddamn war. I really delved into what my concerns were and why the decisions I made affected my everyday life in such a way that I was just treading water. It is extremely difficult to be fully honest with yourself, then try to be fully objective. It's a nightmare before you learn that it's the only way to change. R stands for react, and no matter who you are, it's the first thing we all do when faced with a situation, be it positive, negative or insignificant. The question I asked myself was how I react to things that arise, and I came to the conclusion that there are two ways. Either loudly or silently. The question then was which way is most suitable. Because reacting is what most people need to do, it is a way of dealing with the first impression we are faced with. Do you need to scream when you hit the toe on the bed leg? Does it hurt less? Do you need to shout and sound because you disagree with someone or because you are not happy with the situation you are facing? Or is it more effective to be quiet and focus on finding the solution? I reason like that. A silent reaction is more productive and you save the energy for the next steps. At the same time, you also do not give away any information if, let's say, you disagree with someone. The person you disagree with doesn't need to see that you're frustrated, because if it's me you're standing in front of and yelling at, I've already won that conversation and it doesn't matter how you behave going forward. Your irritation is a sign of a lack of communication, but above all, a lack of self-respect. If you're standing there yelling at me to convince me that what you're saying is correct and am just standing there, am not changing my facial expression and am not interrupting you to counter my opinions. You will boil with anger in no time because you feed your own frustration even more if I am indifferent. But that doesn't mean you can't get your hands dirty when someone goes too far. The difference is you never see me coming because you can't read my intentions, and when it comes hard, and when you have emptied your lungs of air. It doesn't matter if it's physical or verbal, when you've exhausted yourself, you've unconsciously lowered your guard and you have nothing to protect yourself with when it's my turn. Just like boxing, the person who ducks the most usually wins the battle as that person has saved their energy. But it then applies that you yourself have reason for what you say, because if you start shouting yourself, both of you stand as losers in the debate you started as a winner. Choose the right words, express yourself in a calm and composed way and never show that you possess the only truth. People who then interrupt you once you're talking, no matter how annoying it is, let them continue, because when that discussion is over, you have the choice to cut off all future relationship with the person or not. Only you design your own situation, so no matter who it is, do what's right for you and don't give a shit about the rest of the world's opinions. Tomorrow I will talk about the step after the reaction, to come to an acceptance, which is the first step towards solving a situation productively. You need to buy new shoes but believe that the ones you need are too expensive for your finances right now, which gives you a feeling of discomfort. That is your reaction, but you need to come to a decision, and you do that by accepting the situation. As reluctant as it is, you buy the shoes by accepting the situation. You are still reacting to the situation with the expensive shoes, and a few days later when you have worn them and the thought slowly shifts from the negative purchase to the benefits of having bought the new shoes. It is only now that you have come to an acceptance of the entire quote. But the process up to the final acceptance is what the whole RAOSA is based on, and these are the various steps I will go through this week. This works for me, this is my truth, but as I said, it doesn't have to be your reality, but if you find any use in this philosophy, then use it as a tool and modify it to suit you if desired. Accepting something can be the hardest thing we face. There are many situations every day that we need to accept in order to move forward in everyday life. Most of them are minor and we don't put any energy into them, it just comes naturally. But sometimes we are faced with situations that are much bigger, such as when you receive the news of a serious illness, you need to change jobs or move, etc. Situations where we feel that we have difficulty accepting or even find it impossible to accept. But as humans, we are all equipped with the ability to acclimatize no matter how difficult the situation we are facing. I think it's about the will to survive, be it consciously or unconsciously, because the majority of people still choose to fight on, however difficult it may be. You accept the situation and strive to change it for the better. What then is acceptance and how does it affect RAOSA? Accepting a situation is sometimes the hardest thing you can do. It can be about making a decision or forgiving someone or something. Achieving a form of harmony in oneself when external circumstances demand our attention and above all when it is something that affects us negatively. Because when it's about the positive things like winning money or when you get the news that a serious illness has been cured, it's quite easy to accept. By achieving complete acceptance, everyday life is simplified, in my opinion, whether it is a negative or positive situation. It is often said that you solve a difficult situation by taking the bull by the horns, you stand in front of the concern and deal with it immediately instead of putting it off until tomorrow, which only makes the concern grow into a problem and the anxiety grows bigger so you put it off until tomorrow again. It's a terrible negative spiral and it's going downhill fast. One thing becomes two things and two things become four, then everyday life is so dark that you can hardly see your own hand. How do you calm down? How do you accept something that affects you so negatively? I don't have a concrete answer to that other than that it is a path everyone must try to find for themselves as it is so hugely individual. Take the example of kicking the toe in the leg of the bed from yesterday. I am aware that it hurts. That's my whole reaction. I don't have to say ouch or scream and let it serve no function for the pain. I just state quietly in my head that it will soon be over, then I go on with whatever I was doing. That's the whole RAOSA in 2 seconds. Because the next time you punch your arm, you'll probably say ouch, even though it doesn't actually hurt. It's a reflex. I can almost guarantee that if the second you hit say your arm in something and instead of saying ouch you start thinking about how you react, you will be surprised. If you continue to do this time and time again, you will soon realize that you can hit yourself quite hard before it actually hurts, but then you are more curious about how the body reacts than reacting yourself and complaining loud and clear. Then of course there are exceptions as there are actually times where it really hurts, but again. If you accept the situation, you don't need to focus more on it by verbally demonstrating it to everyone around you, which leads to you making your time more efficient and being able to continue with whatever you were doing. It is pragmatic to the point that people around you may perceive you as a cold person, but in fact you have only chosen to react silently in order to quickly start working on acceptance so that you can more quickly achieve a solution to the situation and thus leave it behind you and continue to be productive. It is the most difficult step in RAOSA and therefore difficult to explain in words, but I hope it will fall into place when the other 3 steps have been explained. But the most important thing about this whole process is that you cannot take the next step until you have completed the step before. You cannot come to an acceptance without first having fully reacted, therefore the reaction is not something productive but only destructive as it reveals you as a person and waste your time. As soon as you have reacted clearly, you kick your toe and shrug your shoulders in acceptance and through the observation, which is tomorrow's theme, can state that it didn't actually hurt but was more unpleasant but it will soon pass. So in short, you can say that when you have accepted something, it is only then that you become indifferent to whatever you have to deal with and only then can you deal with the situation objectively. It is, in my opinion, a pragmatic solution to a situation, be it positive or negative. Observing means different things for different situations. Like the example of stubbing your toe, yes it hurts. That's the whole observation, but say you have a meeting with 5 substantive issues that you need to discuss, then the observation grows significantly. In short, observing means gathering information. If I have a meeting with 5 points that I know are the basis for the discussion, then I gather information about these 5 points. I then collect another 5 follow-up questions that I think can come up. These 5 follow-up questions in turn get 3 follow-up questions to which I seek answers. So in total these 5 questions have grown to 5 by 5, plus 5 by 3, a total of 40 questions that I am looking for answers to. In this way, I have thus prepared as much as I can, and there is a lot more to do before I am overwhelmed by questions I do not already have any knowledge of. For the questions I do not have enough information about, I ask that I come back with the answer when I have better information. Through this method, I have not only shown that I possess the knowledge of the subject, I have also demonstrated that I will not answer something I know nothing about, and in this way I will not get out of balance either. And if there are, say, 3 follow-up questions I don't have knowledge of, I do the same way as before, 3 questions with 5 follow-up questions which in turn have at least 3 more follow-up questions. So depending on the situation and what the matter is, the observation has different meanings. Say you have sold the butter and lost the money, then you will first react, then accept that this is the case. The question then is how you proceed. You observe your possibilities and where they will lead, what is the outcome you desire, and how do you achieve that goal in the easiest way with the least risk of getting yourself into even more trouble. One last example taken from my real time. I have a certain amount of money until salary. This is enough to charge the phone or buy bus tickets in the last days until salary. I reason like this. I received a message from a brother from another mother which meant that the choice was difficult, as I felt an urgent need to contact him for reasons you have nothing to do with, but it was of the utmost importance, so the observations told me to charge the phone. I have now received the information I needed and can by so make another decision, to put the money on the bus tickets so I can earn more money. I've been practicing RAOSA for so many years now that it's almost like I don't react anymore and go straight to accepting the situation no matter what it is. Yes, it would have sucked to have to say no to those work passes as I need the money, but those who are so close to me that I see them as brothers are worth more than money. Through observation, the answers I needed to make the decision, this time it came naturally to me. But there are times when I am faced with choices that are much more difficult to make a decision in, and those times the observation is not only useful for the sake of information, but it gives me time to really catch my breath and make decisions that are not hasty but well thought out. The more I put RAOSA into practice, the easier it was to make decisions and get things done, however much it took to make certain decisions. But the longer I put things off, the heavier the anxiety about the subject grows, and eventually it becomes so great that I shoot myself in the foot just because I didn't tackle it right away. Tomorrow is Thursday, and then I will go through the penultimate step in this philosophy. Summing up what I have observed, these 2 steps are the first creative ones. Reacting, as you probably now understand, is not the least bit productive, and accepting is nothing more than zeroing in so you can deal with the issue in an objective way without involving emotions. Once you've gathered the information you think you need through the observations, it's time to sum it up, because you won't need all the information you've gathered. Some things are more suitable to save for possible future situations than the one you are in, and mainly for various meetings. The big question is when to stop the observations and to start summarizing. It is very easy to overwork that particular step and thus not get to the point. You could compile the summary itself by compiling your script/blueprint for the situation you are facing. It is therefore important that you stick to the script or the blueprint so that you don't lose focus and lose your balance. It's about whether you have enough information about that side track or not, because if you're missing the 5 follow-up questions and the 3 questions that followed them, then you don't have the full knowledge, in my opinion. Then I let it go, make a note and look for further information in case I think it's something I need to spend time on. Because the end goal of this whole process is what I'll get to tomorrow. When you set this whole system in motion and act, just like I did last night with the neighbors who woke up the whole house. But above all, me. And that was the stupidest thing they could have done, because I don't just say. And I'm not calling 911. React, accept, observe, summarize, and finally act. There we have the whole philosophy. Then it simply starts over, but the more I've practiced these steps, the faster the whole process goes and the easier my everyday decisions have been. I started with small factual questions and it has since grown with the realization that it actually works for me. If I take the example of kicking the toe in the leg of the bed, I no longer need to react nor accept, I go straight to the observation. Did it hurt? No, as a rule, it doesn't, which thus becomes my summation, and based on that, I don't have to act with either saying ouch or even putting energy into anything other than the fascination of how much the body can withstand. If I take the situation as yesterday with the neighbors who woke me up with their party, the reaction was much stronger. I accept the situation, that they woke me up, so the observation went quickly. I don't know how many there are, I don't know who is there, and I don't know how they will react. But, if they choose not to accept that I tell them, how do I handle the situation? Will I fall back into retreat or go on the attack, kick them into the doorway, which then becomes a bottleneck, and force them to come one by one, which makes me the most dangerous of us? The plan was so complete and it took 30 seconds, and by that time I had already put on my clothes. If it's a meeting you're sitting in, the philosophy usually starts all over again after you've acted, as it's about the exchange of information. Once you have acted, just sit back and observe how the other party reacts and finally acts, a part of the future observation and summation. No need, as I said, to react, since you give yourself away. Because it is his actions that you then need to relate to again by reacting to, and again, questions you do not have the answer to, you ask to come back to. This means that you do not rush and say or do something you do not master the information about. At the end of the day, it is our own actions that design our own future. Just like for me today. I woke up at 2:22 a.m., which is 2 hours before the alarm. Should I turn over and go back to sleep or get up? I don't even spend time reacting to waking up so early, I turn it around and see the benefits instead. Feed the right wolf, right? I can go back to sleep and wake up like a zombie. We all know this, as we have certainly done just that so many times before. Instead, I now sit and drink a cup of tea in my solitude, Edith Piaf in the headphones. I'm alert and ready for the day while I finish this post, which means that after work I can call it a weekend. So, as you may now see, the reaction is completely pointless. The acceptance is hugely important to move on to the actual steps, which are the only productive ones that lead to a well-thought-out action that makes you the stronger of the parties if you have observed the information and summed it up the situation well enough. This can then be built on with both physiology and psychology. How and when you say what in a meeting, for example, do you have speech pauses to reinforce your meaning? Do you have an even tone in your speech, or do you vary it to reinforce the message? Do you have your arms crossed or widely extended so you take up more space, etc.? Do you swear and make a lot of noise when you hit yourself even when it actually hurts? In that case you might as well do like small children and put a band-aid on even if it doesn't bleed, as it serves the same function. I really want to point out that this works for me, but I'm also not like most people and definitely not like everyone else. Therefore, my reality does not have to be your truth, but if any of this can help you on your way through life the same way it helped me, then bend it, shape it any way you want. Just make sure your decisions move you forward in the right direction, and even if you take a detour, own it and keep observing and perhaps summarizing the information in a new way. Make changes to get new results, because the only one you have to live with is yourself, as you are the most important person in your life, because without you in your life. Vulcan salute, one love.